know what I'm doing? This is going to be my second October horror watches video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about all the horror films that I watched throughout this week, as well as a few movies that I plan on watching this weekend. Now, as I was watching movies this week, I've come to realize that I'm not going to be able to have enough time to watch all the movies that I plan on watching. You know, with work and with other things going on in my life, I'm not going to be able to have enough time to watch all the films that I was hoping to watch during this month. And so what I've done is I narrowed it down, and I just plan on watching movies that I watch every year, as well as a few new films that I haven't seen. I actually just finished watching a movie that I've never seen before, and I do plan on talking about that at the end of the video. But first, let's get to the movies that I watched throughout this week. So the first movie that I watched this week is an independent film that came out in the early 2000s, and that is Sleepy Hollow High. You can't really see where it says high because it was marked off with a black marker. But this movie is not related to the Tim Burton film, which is one of my favorite horror films. This movie is more based on the classic story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And it basically follows a group of delinquent teenagers who go to Sleepy Hollow High. And they've all gotten in trouble for something, like, you know, one guy, he's got in trouble for selling drugs and different things like that. And so as punishment, they either are going to get, they're about to get expelled, and the principal says that instead of them getting expelled, they're going to make them do community service over at the Sleepy Hollow Park grounds, which is an area in a forest that are close to. And, you know, the movie is an independent film, so it is pretty low budget, but I personally think that this movie's got a great October feeling because, you know, they're out there in the woods, there's, you know, leaves everywhere, and the movie also takes place on Halloween as well. Also, the killer of the movie wears a jack-o'-lantern mask throughout the whole film and rides a horse. You can kind of see his mask right there. I've always loved this cover. It just has half of a jack-o'-lantern on that side, you know, and there. So yeah, like I said, it's an independent film. You know, the acting is pretty decent, but I do think that it's a pretty entertaining film, and it's one I would check out. I have not seen it on DVD at all. I remember buying that on VHS at a store somewhere. I can't remember where. So I don't know how rare the movie is or how easy it is to get your hands on it, but if you're into independent horror films, I'd say check it out. Now, the next movie I watched is a horror classic, and that is Children of the Corn. And this is another great movie to watch in October because, you know, when you see, for me, when I see cornfields, I always think about October, things like that. But, yeah, like I said, this is one movie that I always loved watching. I remember back when I was a kid, my aunt used to have the original VHS of it, and it had the image of the hand coming up out of the cornfield with the axe. That always used to really creep me out as a kid. And I actually do have a tape that has that artwork on it as well. But yeah, Children of the Corn is definitely one that I love watching in October, and I do think it's definitely a horror classic. And another movie that I think is a horror classic, and this one is a really, really great thriller. I have not watched this movie in years, and I remember watching and this movie really, really creeped me out when I was younger, and it still kind of did watching it. Just, you know, while I was watching it, I was remembering, you know, the scenes that really creeped me out as a kid, and I was sort of preparing myself for them, and they still creep me out. But that is Candyman. This movie is a very well-crafted and great thriller, very effective, very creepy, and just an all-around great, great horror film. I love how this movie really focuses more on the story of, you know, the Candyman and, you know, the urban legend behind him. And, you know, it doesn't have a whole lot of gory scenes. It does, but, you know, when people get killed by the Candyman, to me, I'd say it's more disturbing than it is gory or, you know, like fun, gory death scenes. I found the scenes in the movie to be more disturbing. Probably the one scene that has always gotten me is when the little boy, he goes into the bathroom and the Candyman kills him. I'm not going to give away exactly what happens, but that one scene has always gotten to me. But Candyman is, it even says on the front, you know, the scariest film since The Silence of the Lambs. And I think that they're comparing this movie to The Silence of the Lambs because The Silence of the Lambs is a true thriller. You know, very story-driven and, you know, very a really great film, and I think this movie is the same way. Very, very story driven and very, I would say it's an intelligent horror film, I'd say, and definitely a horror classic. Alright, now the next movie, which I do plan on watching this weekend, I have not watched it yet. I'm saving the last movie that I watched today. I'm saving that for the end of this video, but I've been watching all the Halloween films throughout the month of October, and I've already watched Resurrection and H2O, so the next one I'm going to watch is The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, this one has always had mixed opinions of horror, horror fans and, Halloween fans alike. Personally, I really enjoy this movie. I'm going to be watching the theatrical cut of the film, not the producer's cut, because I prefer the theatrical cut over the producer's cut. I've talked about it in other videos why I prefer the theatrical over the producer's cut, so I'm not going to get into it. But I've always thought that this movie I've always enjoyed this one. It's definitely one of my least favorites, but I still do really enjoy it. I think it has a lot of great, really creepy elements to it. I think that this is one of the creepier films in the later sequels. I definitely say that this one and maybe 5, they both have a feeling to them. This one has a much different feeling than 4 and 5, I'd say, probably because this movie came out in the late 90s. But yeah, I've always enjoyed this one. Alright, and now the two films that I plan on watching this weekend are two films that are both horror classics. This first one I'm going to watch is a movie that I grew up watching, and it was one of the creepiest films I'd ever seen, but it is Pet Sematary. Now, this movie has become it's a tradition to watch it every year. I remember when they used to play it on AMC, which for some reason they're not playing it. They're not playing, they used to play the AMC Fear Fest, and for some reason they're not playing it a whole lot this year. They're only playing it for the last week of October. And I remember when they used to play it almost the entire month. This was one movie that used to come on all the time on AMC or Sci-Fi, and it's just a horror classic, and it's one that I always love to go back to. I'm not really talking about, I don't want to focus a lot on talking about movies that I know everyone has seen. Like Pet Sematary is one that I know that everybody has seen. Or this next one, which is actually one that has become a horror favorite in my opinion. For me, it's a movie that will become a tradition for me. I plan on watching this every year in October. Dario Argento's Suspiria. Absolutely love this film. I've done several videos talking about it, so I'm not going to go into it. But yeah, I do plan on watching this weekend. And now I'm going to talk about the movie that I watched today. And this is the latest installment in one of my all-time favorite horror franchises, and that is the Child's Play franchise. For those of you who have been following me on my channel, you guys know that Child's Play was the first horror film that I ever saw. I saw it when I was 6 years old, and ever since then I've always loved the entire franchise. I love the series, and I finally sat down and watched Cult of Chucky. Now this one movie is one that I've heard so many mixed things about. Some people are absolutely loving this movie, and some people are absolutely hating it and calling it like the worst film in the franchise. I'm not going to get into the plot of it because you guys know, you guys can just look up the plot of the movie, but in my opinion, I really, really did enjoy this movie. There was a lot of things about it that I liked. There were a few things about it that I didn't like and I wasn't a big fan of, but overall, I really did enjoy it. Now, there is one, not really a twist, I want to say, but there is something that Chucky does where he's able to go around to be in more than one place at a time. I'll just put it that way. And when he said that he was doing that, I thought, why did they not do that before? That's actually a really great idea. It's not really a twist per se, but it's just kind of a cool thing that he starts doing in this one, where you're kind of like, wow, that's a really good idea. It'd be cool if they had done that earlier in the series, so I'm glad that they included that in that one. In this one, Andy comes back again, which I'm really glad that he's back, because when I was a kid, I grew up on Child's Play and Child's Play 2, and I've always loved that character. I've always loved the Andy character, so to see him come back and be like a main character in the film, I really did enjoy. I also enjoyed the setting of the movie. You know, it takes place, in a, you might want to call it an insane asylum, but I just call it a hospital. It takes place in a hospital, and it's in, it's set in the winter time, so it's snowing, which I absolutely love. I love films with a snowy setting. It's kind of like depressing, because it's just one, tall building out in this, and there's snow all around it, and it seems very isolated. And there's something just dark and something creepy about just being in this big hospital surrounded by snow. I like the different characters that Nika, she talks to in it as well. I think my favorite was probably Malcolm, is the guy who she meets, which is kind of funny. Because she meets this one guy named Malcolm, and they call him Multiple Malcolm because he has multiple personality disorder. And what he does is that he believes that he's several different like celebrities. Like in one scene, he thinks he's Mark Zuckerberg. In another scene, he thinks he's Michael Phillips. But after they meet, the first time that they meet, they end up like having sex like 10 minutes in or something, and I'm just kind of like, okay. Like, it was just kind of weird, it just seemed like it was kind of unnecessary. Like, wow, you just met this guy and now it just seemed kind of weird and just kind of unnecessary. I think it kind of slowed down the movie, because you kind of think that as the movie goes on, they would like sort of develop a relationship, but that never happens. They just kind of, they talk to each other and they're kind of friends, but as the movie goes on, they really don't connect again, or nothing else happens. So you're kind of like, well, why have that scene in the movie? There was also a few other things about the film that did bother me. I noted a lot of people criticize the ending because the movie, it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. I personally enjoyed the ending, but I can understand why a lot of people don't enjoy it. And there were moments in the film that I wasn't a big fan of. But overall, I thought that Cult of Chucky was a pretty decent sequel, and if you haven't seen it already, and if you're apprehensive about it, just check it out on Netflix or download it or whatever, watch it however way you want it. Now, I wanted to own the movie because I want to own every film in the Child's Play franchise, just like I want to own every film in the Halloween franchise, which I do, or I just love owning every film in a franchise that I love. And I actually had to wait to get it because for some reason my Walmart didn't get it the first day it came out. So I actually had to wait about a week before I was able to go to a different Walmart to get it. But overall, guys, I must say I really did enjoy Cult of Chucky, and I would recommend it, but I would recommend checking it out. But if you don't want to spend money on it because you're still apprehensive about it, then just check it out on Netflix, or just watch it another way, because I know that there's been a lot of mixed opinions about this film. Some people are really enjoying it, and some people are really not. And I don't want to say, oh, go watch it, you're going to love it, because it's really, there's got a lot of mixed opinions about it. Like I said, there were a lot of things that I did really enjoy about it, but there was also things about it that I didn't. But overall, I enjoyed it. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this second video in my October Horror Watches series. I plan on doing one more video like this at the end of next week, which will be the last full week of October. And I also have other videos I have planned to do during the last week of October. I plan on showing off my horror collectibles, as well as doing a brand new video showing off my entire Halloween and Michael Myers collection. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think about all the movies that I talked about in this video, if you guys have seen them, and I'll see you guys in the next video.